By the time this video goes up, many of you will already have heard or gotten wind of this story. And it's absolutely disturbing on more than one hand. One hand because of what was said about not so much to LeBron James, but someone very, very closely related to him. And I do mean close. And the response that came from black people before finding out the facts behind the situation. So what you're looking at is a picture right here. There is actually a video that goes along with it, where you had LeBron literally go over to the official, or one of the refs, and went over to this fan and pointed her and her man out and said in so many words, "I want them kicked out of here for what was said." Now, what was said was that this woman and her man, especially her in particular, were making some very obscene comments about Bronny James, who you know is LeBron James's son. And when I say obscene, I'm not just talking about maybe how his hair might look or how he plays basketball. I'm talking about on the lines of death threats towards his son. Now that's going overboard. Now you will have hecklers at all games. The place where I work, I see them all the time. But this is overstepping your boundaries. This is the definition of doing entirely too much. And before, I'm not even going to go into when it comes to black people. I'm going to save that one for the end, because I have some things I have to talk about with black people concerning this situation too. And look at her face. This is the face that she made. She thought it was a joke. She thought it was funny. She made this face as if, oh, he's so upset. This is how he really feels and everything like that, as if what did not just leave out of her mouth would piss off any parent. People forget that LeBron James, before he's an athlete, before he's this public figure, he is a dad first. This man has, 3 kids? I believe 3 or 4 kids. So his kids, you can say what you want about LeBron James, but you cannot say that this guy's a bad father. He is definitely a family man. He's married, has been married for a very long time. All of his children with the same woman who he's married to, Savannah James. And he takes care of his kids. And he provides a good life for his kids. And he's always going to be there for his children. He's one of the good ones. The ones that, unfortunately, they don't talk about much as far as fatherhood goes. And he's going to stand up for his kids. Like, he literally, I have to give LeBron props for this. He literally stopped the middle of his game to confront this person because of what people were saying. And the thing is, they said the fans were saying for the longest that, look, they were saying all this stuff about his son. And then LeBron got wind of it. And then that's when he paused the game and had the officials throw her and her man up out of there. Now, this isn't the first time, because if you remember a few months ago, some fans, when the Lakers were playing the Hawks in Atlanta, had this other white woman and her man ejected from a game for saying some obscene things. I don't think it was about his son, but it was going overboard at the same time. What are the parallels? Again, white women involved. And it was mainly, even though they were there with their men, but it was mainly them causing the most problems. Are we seeing the parallel here? And I'm not just saying it because it's a coincidence because it's LeBron James, because this happens quite often when it comes to black male athletes, but because it's LeBron James, they love to pile on him. I've told people so many times, like when he said about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, they went in on his comment section. Every time something happens, they always say LeBron James, or what is LeBron James going to say? LeBron James is going to say this. They always got to make him, it's almost like they try to make him the spokesperson for black people, but they also try to make him seem like he's the boogeyman of black people at the same time. He's like, LeBron James is literally public enemy number 1 when it comes to sports. It's like via basketball. I would like to think that Michael Jordan was that way at one time, but I'm not entirely sure. I can't really call it. But they just have to make sure to go after LeBron. It's almost like they're trying to set the stage to try to go after his legacy when he retires. That's what the vibe I'm getting from it. So they can look back and say, oh, he said this, he said that, he was this way, he was that way. That's, for me, what it really all boils down to. And I'm sure a lot of media hit pieces came after him when it came to this whole situation in which he was dealing with right here. So, like I said, this is the second time this year that LeBron James had to confront a so-called fan for some stuff that they were saying are going out of the lines, are going overboard, where they had to be escorted out of the arena I think the one in Georgia, she ended up getting banned altogether from even coming to any future games, whether LeBron played there or not. I'm not sure what the outcome is going to be with this chick right here. But same thing, in my opinion, needs to happen as well, because you can say what you want about me, but when you start saying things about my child and it's, death threats, that's going overboard. You're doing too much. And too bad Savannah wasn't there. I don't know. Well, I can't say if she was there or not, but if she wasn't there, that's unfortunate, because that would have been an interesting little, I guess you can say, scuffle that would have ensued. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, now let me take my focus to black people. Black people have not every black person but some black people have a knack for doing and going along with PC when it comes to LeBron James and their criticisms of him. Some may not like him because of who he is. Some may not like him because of his game. Whatever the case may be, fine, whatever. But y'all a lot of you threw on the cape, and I know they did because I went to the comment sections after it was revealed what really happened. A lot of you literally jumped up and threw on the cape for this chick and made it seem like LeBron was snitching. I saw so many names. They called him Le Snitch. Of course, the LeBum, that one's played out, and all types of stuff. And saying he's snitching on her, he's being a drama queen, he's being a crybaby. I literally saw it all. But then when it got revealed what was actually happening, y'all had to eat your words and realize what was really going on. Now imagine if you was a media personality and you put that out in a blog, or you worked for, say, ESPN or something like that. First off, their coon cup over there has runneth over, mainly thanks to Stephen A. for Asshole Smith. They don't need any more over there. Imagine if he was in that position. LeBron James would have every right to sue you for defamation of character, especially because of the situation at hand when it comes to the subject matter, which was this woman and her man, mainly her, talking about his son in a very obscene way where it involved death threats. As a matter of fact, I want to see if I can go through this article and read exactly what she said, because I want to know. She said, "I hope Bronny dies in a car wreck." Those were her words. I hope Bronny dies in a car wreck. That's what she said out of her mouth. Any man who has children hears that from another person would do the same thing he did. Now, I can't say whether some of the people who left them comments or not had children or not, but the fact that y'all jumped out and said all these things about him before you even knew it was happening, let's face it, LeBron James is probably one of the most critiqued basketball players of our time. Online or offline, whatever the case may be. He gets heckled a lot at a lot of games. And he's never confronted or confronts every fan. That would be too much to try to confront every single fan. That would be doing entirely too much. But if he has to take his time out of being in the moment and playing in a game that he loves to confront a idiot like this, you know it's an issue. So instead of you saying, oh, he's being a crybaby, he's being a snitch and everything like that, find out why he did it first. And this is not me coming off as a LeBron James fan, but I'm just saying what it is. Find out what made him go off like that. Because like I said, a lot of people heckle and talk about LeBron James all the time at these games. And it's not surprising, because whenever you are at the top of your game, you're always going to be the most talked about. And that's just the facts. That's just what it is. You're probably going to have the most critiques and criticism out of everybody else. And he deals with that. And I'm sure that the coaches tell him about that. Some of these players probably go to therapy to cleanse or somehow whatever, get it off their chest, because they can't really say how they want in front of the media. So they have to tell it to somebody behind closed doors to keep from really snapping on somebody. So for him to actually have to confront this person when he gets talked about all the time, which seems to be sometimes 24/7, that means it was a serious matter. And it was. This woman said, I hope your son dies in a car wreck. Listen, you may not like LeBron James as a person. You may not like LeBron James as a player. But keep your criticisms of him on him. Don't go overboard and say, I hope your son dies in a car. What did his son, who was a teenager, do to you? Nothing. Not a damn thing. You don't know his son. His son don't know you. You don't even know LeBron James. You just there paying your ticket to come see a game like everybody else. So you just sit there and be entertained for the next 2.5 hours. And that doesn't only go for her, but that goes for anybody. It doesn't have to just be on LeBron James. It could be on any player. Talking about someone else's child because you don't like who their parent is, that's ridiculous. Whatever their parent does has no effect on them. So if you have any critique, you keep it on them. And sometimes some of them do that to throw them off their game. And also, too, don't make death threats to the players. Because she could easily said, LeBron James, you can die in a car wreck. And that would be going overboard. And I would have confronted her for saying that, too. Because now you made a death threat on my life. And now that people know what it is, now that it's come out, LeBron James, I hope he sues her. And I hope he embarrasses her and forces her to do a public apology to his son. To his face, might I add. And I bet you she would have never gotten into his son's face and said that. Even if it was just him in the room and it was her and him alone. And LeBron and Savannah wasn't around. I bet you she would have not said that to his face. These people go over freaking board all the time. This is doing entirely too much. It's time is enough is enough. And speaking of enough, the NBA, Adam Silver, you need to do something about this. You are over the NBA. You are as far as I know, the commissioner. You need to do something about this because this is going way too far. If you start telling these fans, you'll start threatening them with lawsuits when they do stuff like this, they'll stop. They'll get the message because no one wants to say they're going to get a lawsuit from the NBA. But as long as you don't take care of business, this will continue to happen. And I hope they take it into consideration if they haven't done so already. Because something has to be done. It's been going on for too long. Remember with the Malice at the Palace all them years ago? That came from fans doing too much. And then they tried to flip it and try to make it seem like Ron Artest was the main culprit. No. The fan did too much, then started throwing things. At that point, he had to do what he had to do, and that's what happened. Now because the thing is they do stuff like this in order for them to have some kind of assault come their way so they can say, I'm going to sue you for assaulting me. A lot of these fans who go to these games are looking for attention anyway. A lot of them aren't even there for the game. They're there to be seen. It's a fashion show for many of them. A big look at me show. Or to go there to start problems like this woman did right here. And like I said, this is the second time this year that a white woman had to get confronted by LeBron James for her behavior, for her bad behavior. And I have a feeling it's not going to be the last. I have a feeling it's going to be more. But I do salute LeBron James for stepping in and confronting her because at the end of the day, he has to protect his family. And he did that while on the clock. Literally. He said, timeout, stop. Because he had to get that, he had to let that be known. Because imagine if he didn't stop this. People would have been looking at him like, you going to let this woman talk about your son this way and you didn't do anything? Or if he didn't do anything, that would have played in his head for the rest of the game. And it would have messed his performance up. And he would be like, probably like, man, I should have said something. So people can say what they want about LeBron James, but one thing you cannot fault him for is being a bad father. Like I said earlier, the man is a great father to all of his children. And in that moment, he showed what it is to be a real phenomenal protecting father, which is, I'm sure, in the father handbook. It comes with the territory. Now you probably gonna have some of these pieces written up talking about him being misogynic and why he coming at women. They can all eat a bag of tax if that's how they're gonna come at it. After all, look at the stuff they said about the King Richard movie. I just did a video about that. So I give kudos to LeBron in this instance for sure. But I'm going to go ahead and end the video on that note. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments.